Good morning. Today we are playing around with some hips and shoulders. Oh, bye. All to help loosen you up, grow some awareness between your legs, your pelvis, and your shoulder girdle, and to really grow your awareness for the next steps in improving your function. So we're going to start with legs up the wall. Be sure to have either a rolled mat or spinal strip handy. Have a buckled strap as well as a tennis ball or a massage ball. All right, so join me over at some space that you've got for a wall or a door, and we're taking ourselves legs up the wall. Okay, now remember, when you do this, the idea is that your pelvis is on the floor. It's not lifting up to off the ground. There's not space underneath your bum. And so you don't have to go right up to the wall. Sometimes there's this belief that your pelvis has to be right up against the wall in order for this to work. And that's not true. Okay? So I just want you to find the position where your pelvis is on the floor, that your legs are comfortable going up the wall, and that you just feel comfortable overall in the position. So sometimes people can feel some jaw and neck issues here, and so that lets you know you're a little too close. And if you keep pushing yourself back, you can't find something comfortable, then come off of the wall and just lay on your back with your knees bent, or take your legs over a chair. And wherever you land yourself to be, just allow your legs to sink into your hip sockets. Imagining that your pelvis is like mud and your legs are like wooden telephone poles. So the telephone poles are sinking into the mud. And then as you're here, let's just feel your breath. And just let those legs sink a little. And it's not something you need to actively do. If there's any action, it's your ability to relax. Okay, so now take your toes and you're going to move your toes toward your nose. So you're going to dorsiflex your feet. And I want you to really think about your ankle. I cubed the toes. I want you to think about your ankle, your heel. You might hear this over the mic. My heels are moving up the wall because my ankle bones are dorsiflexing. Okay, and then let that go. Cross your right ankle over your left, making sure that pelvis is very quiet, and slide the ankle down toward the knee. So the pelvis is quiet the entire time, right? So we're doing a little bit of hip mobility here with an easy pelvis, legs that are heavy. Really, 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 really easy breath. So can you feel your breathing as separate from your movement, but related? So oftentimes when I'm teaching, I don't say when I want you to inhale or when I want you to exhale. So we're going to uncross and then cross the other side. So now the opposite leg is over. So I don't tend to ask you to breathe in on a movement and breathe out on a movement. Rather, I want you to breathe and notice what your breath is doing while you're moving. And so can you notice that? Can you allow the breath to just come in and go out on its own? And notice when you start to overthink, which is often correlated with a held breath. And can you come into the experience of feeling? And then uncross those legs. Can you come into the experience of feeling? Feeling is not thinking. We don't think our way to feeling. We feel. We just feel. So in this case, you're feeling your heels against the wall, your back against the floor. Just feel. And there's nothing right or wrong about whatever it is you're feeling, because whatever you're feeling is what you're feeling. Great. Okay, let's come on out. So roll it over to one side and then come on out, and we're going to move toward your rolled mat or your spinal strip. So we've got a spinal strip that we're going to fold in half, or your rolled mat, and we're going to take that edge of the spinal strip right at about the bra strap or opposite the bottom of the breastbone, whatever cueing makes the most sense for you. And then you get to just rest right in here. And let your hands settle on your rib cage. Easy breathing. Let your eyes soften. And feel the spinal strip underneath or the rolled mat underneath your back, and let yourself sink into it a little bit more. And notice your breath. Okay, so now we're going to take the hands up to the sky, and I'd like you to touch your thumb tips together. So you've got like the bottom part of a rectangle or a box that you're looking at. So you've got, or another way to look at it is your left hand has a backward L or a regular L, and your right hand has a backward L. You're going to raise your arms up to the sky and then bring them back. So you're protracting the blades so the arms come up, and then retracting the blades. Protracting and then retracting. Arms reach up and then they come back. Arms reach up and then they come back. And just be aware of your breathing now. Okay? And settle that out and start to take the arms over your head. That's it. And then back. And over your head and back. Now, the furthest you're going to go with the arms coming over your head is the ears. But I want you to notice if your arms want to kind of, one arm wants to lead more than the other, or if there's a real wobble, or if there's a clunk or a click. There, I just had a clunk there. So I'm just going to make my movement a bit smaller. So the clunk or the click could be many different things, but over and over and over what I've seen is that when I help someone move through the range where there is no clunk or click, then the range starts to improve with no clunk or click. Yeah. So that's just happened for me. So now I'm alongside my ears and that left shoulder had no clunk or click in it. Really easy breath. Just notice where it is, what it's doing. Okay, lovely. So we're going to come off of that now and lie onto your back for a moment. And just feel for what it is that you feel. And do your best to notice and not get distracted by thought. Just come back to your body. The feeling of what you feel in your body is so powerful. And in many ways, we've been dismissed about actually feeling it. Good. And then roll it over. Let's come up in hands and knees. Okay. So hands and knees, we're going to come into a cat and a cow. So move through the pelvis and the spine, and then move through the other way. What's really cool, I find, with thought and feeling is that thought really does lead to feeling. I mean, we've heard that before, right? We've heard that before. That thought leads to feeling. If you can spend enough time with the feeling that you have, you really can ascertain what you're thinking. Because lots of times we just feel something and we feel awful or we feel good or we feel scared or we feel whatever. And we can jump into how something else outside of us made us feel that way. But when you really look at it and you really look at our brain, it's our thought about the thing external to us that has us feel. In every circumstance that's out there, even the biggie that we're all working with right now, that COVID thing, it's all circumstance. And how we think about it leads to how we feel about it. But sometimes we don't know we're doing it, right? Sometimes we just feel what we feel. Okay, so we're going to take the strap. Come into a kneeling position. If you need to put something underneath your bum, then do that. We're going to take the arms up overhead. This is why feeling is so important, because our mind can go all over the place, can't it? It can go all over. And then we try and rein it in, or some people do. But when we can come into feeling and we have the endurance to sit with the feeling, we can become a lot clearer about what it is that we're thinking. Because our thoughts lead to feelings, lead to our actions, lead to our results, right? Right? That's a really common psychological model that's out there. Okay, lovely. Now we're going to bring that down. Good. And then come here. Good. So now just feel as you come back into your cat and cow. Just notice what you feel. Try just to feel. Try not to jump into what you think about what you feel. Just feel. Practice feeling. Allow that breath to come in and to go out. To go in and then to out. So as we go into the rounded cat, that's the exhale. And then the in is the cow. Okay, so coming back to tabletop, reach your arms out, but keep your bum high. Okay, arms out, bum high. And then look at your left hand. You're going to bring that left hand underneath your right elbow. So you've just bent your elbow, your left elbow to 90 degrees to bring the hand underneath the right elbow. Good. And then let's switch sides. Great. And then come back up into tabletop. And let's move back into cat or cow and then into cat. Go. Okay. Lovely. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to play around with the wrist positions in tabletop. All right, so we're going to be here and the hands are going to be pointing forward to start with. And then what I want you to do is to bring your hands out to about 1 o'clock and 11 o'clock. And we're going to very gently move towards 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. And if this isn't working for your wrists, then what I would recommend you do is either come back onto your rolled mat or spinal strip or come into child's pose. Okay. And then move your hands a little further so that you're rotating the arms in the socket so your hands are now pointing toward 7 and 4 or 8 and 4. Okay. What we've done is we're just doing this through the shoulders and then bringing them around. And then we're going to bring them directly back. Okay, so let's start back up at the top again. I want you to think now that the articulating joint is through your shoulder. Okay, and then move. Okay. Easy, easy peasy. Now, it might not feel easy, but I want you to be easy. So choose the position of where your hands are placed. Choose that position based on what you feel. Okay? Okay, and just kind of work through it. Some of you might be feeling something in your elbows or in your forearms, and we don't want that to have that. We don't want that experience. So if that's too much, then just come back to the earlier movement. Just because you can actually do it, right? Just because you can do the movement doesn't mean to do it, right? So you got to pay attention to what you're feeling. What you're feeling through the forearm, what you're feeling through the elbow, what you're feeling through the wrist. Okay, so now we're going to come back and we're going to face this way. And then you can have the fingers pointing this way. So you've moved your arms into rotation this way, or you can have your fingers pointing this way. So you can just bring your arms back into extension. So either way, where the hand is placed is a result of what's going on at the shoulder. So you can rotate and then extend the arms back so the fingertips are pointing that way, or you can have them pointing this way. Everyone seems to have their own preference for when they do this. So you just explore here. And now from here, you're just going to start to lift your hips and move through your shoulders. Okay, so now watch between my ribs and my pelvis and my ribs and my shoulder. So I'm here and I come up, right? I'm generating the movement between my hips and my shoulders, and my pelvis and my ribs are staying as a unit. Okay, and then come back down. Good. And be here. And just notice what you feel. I'm going to grab a ball that rolled away. And I'd like you to take your ball and bring it underneath your hip and roll through your hip. If you've got the availability, take the ankle onto your knee. And being in a different orientation between the leg and the hip now, you can get into other tissue areas. using the ball. And you can roll over onto the outside of your hip. Now, if you're not bringing the ankle up to the knee, because it's not available to you or you just don't want to, then just come onto the outside of that hip. There you go. And roll through there. Yeah? Really good. Okay, other side. I find it so interesting to use these tools like massage balls or tennis balls because they let me know how I'm doing. They let me know how my mechanics are. They let me know how my tissue is responding. I don't tend to use them often because I would rather improve my mobility and my overall neuromuscular communication. Okay, if you want, you can take this. So I use them as a tool of awareness. I use them as a measurement tool, an evaluation tool, just to see where things are at. Yeah. So I can explore what's going on through my hip. And it's particularly interesting after a day that I've been out for a run, or I've done some other yoga stuff that has either been challenging to my hips in either a positive way or I wouldn't say negative, but just in a more difficult way, yeah? And it's always kind of interesting to see what actually happens with the ball. So it becomes a really interesting evaluation tool. Okay, so now we're going to come onto our backs and we're going to come into an ankle to knee. So remember, the idea here is your pelvis is staying still and the leg lifts up and rotates and brings the ankle onto the knee. So the pelvis is not moving. We're not shifting the pelvis up towards the rib cage. Yeah, just like that. And then we're taking ourselves into a little bit of a twist. And I want you to make sure that as you move, these hip flexors in the front side are not engaging. So you're only moving into the rotation as far as these guys in the front, these hip flexors stay soft, which means you're going to need to control the movement through your abdomen, which does not mean that you all of a sudden like get grippy on your belly. Like we're not trying to like anticipate this. What I want you to notice is as you move and as the load changes, right? And my pelvis is lifting right now. My load is changing relative to gravity. Now my body needs to respond. Yeah? So feel how your body is being. Feel the response of your body. And then notice if your hip flexor wants to kick in, then that means that your abdomen just didn't respond as quickly as your hip flexor, right? So just go a little slower. Go a little slower and just kind of coax your abdomen along. Say, hey, abdomen, let's kick in. Let's kick in. And hip flexor, how about you quiet down for a little moment, right? You can kind of get sort of silly with yourself if you'd like. I heard a line the other day. It's like, pretend you're just in the playroom playing around with toys. You know, just play around with toys. It reminds me of last night. We're putting our kids to bed. I've got a set of 3-year-old twins and they gave each other a hug and they fell over and almost hit the wall. They were like a millimeter from whacking their heads on a wall. And they thought it was the funniest thing. They got back up and did it again. Meanwhile, my husband and I were like, oh my God. They were having so much fun just running at each other and hugging each other and falling down to the floor. So it's the same kind of idea. Can you have the spirit of that in through this movement of like just saying to your hip flexor and to your abdomen, hey guys, you know, like just being silly about it. Okay. And then go to the other side. There you go. And again, like when my hip flexors start to kick in these types of positions, it's like, wow, isn't that curious? I wonder what's up. Because it's not like you gain the function and then you've got the function and you never lose the function again. We're too dynamic of human beings for that. But what does happen is you build a coordinating pattern with your brain that you can come back to a lot faster. I think that's really the difference between someone who's got more functional awareness and function in their body versus someone who doesn't. Much like a long-term meditator. Right, a long-term meditator, they're very good at pulling themselves back to their body. We all get distracted, right? But they're good at pulling themselves back to their breath and back to their body. Whereas someone who's new at it gets all caught up in the noise of their mind, right? So it takes some time to grow that capacity, yeah? And so that's all you're doing here is you're growing that capacity. Yeah. Okay, good. Ankle comes off. And now you get to rest back here and breathe and notice what it is you now feel. If you would like to straighten your legs out, go right ahead. Or you can leave them bent, or you can place a bolster underneath them. And I want you to notice what you feel. And what I would love from you guys, if you are someone who's been practicing this and your QL or your back pain has settled out, could you please let me know either in a comment or in a direct message, because there's a few programs around back pain that are kind of coming through me on a creativity front. I probably won't release them until the summer, like well into the summer, but I'm looking to talk with you about how you've made gains through the stuff you've done with me. So I can give context to people who have back pain and would like to hear from others that have benefited. So if you could send me a direct message or post in a comment below, that would be very helpful. You and I could help a lot more people who have back pain. So with that, just settle in and now just easy breathe. And then just connecting legs and pelvis and belly and ribs. Now imagine this feeling, this good feeling that you're experiencing. Imagine that this can be a new normal for you. So if this becomes a new normal for you, what you get to consider is, when does the feeling start to fade, right? Because we are quite dynamic. So paying attention to when the good feeling begins to fade. And then notice the whispers of that feeling beginning to fade before a less than good feeling or even a crappy feeling begins to emerge. Be aware of that. Yeah? Be aware of that. And then you can intervene. And as you intervene at the whisper level, you'll build more and more and more capacity to feel good. Alrighty, so from here, you can still stay lying on your back, or you can come up into a seated position on a bolster or a block. And feel what you feel here now in a vertical position. And when you're ready, bring your hands together into Anjali Mudra. And we'll finish off with a namaste by breathing in with ease and out with gratitude. Namaste. Have a really good rest of your day. Those of you in Australia who are following me live, have a great sleep, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Take good care.